Good afternoon, everyone. So how many people here have been to the balloon fiesta in the morning? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people have enjoyed watching all the balloons take off? Raise your hand. How many people don't like getting up that early? Me too, me too. So when I first came to New Mexico, the thing I looked forward to the most was going to that balloon fiesta and watching all the 600 plus balloons take off in the early morning sky. But ever since getting to know students like Cade, taking your pictures so I can learn your names, being moved and inspired by your assignments and by your presentations, having you as teaching assistants that make me look a lot better than I am. I see you there, Joe and Logan. You're two of them right there. Even though some of you do watch football and catch up your sleep in my class, my favorite thing to do is now watching you graduates take off on this very special day. And we don't have to get up early to do it. Just as so many of you graduates have allowed me to get to know you personally, I want to begin with a personal story about why I think what you've been studying is so special and what it offers to all of us today. So it was a summer before I entered high school, a long time ago. I was going out for the junior varsity football team, and we had 2-a-day practices in the hot, humid days of August. And I remember sweating so much that after practice, the line to that one cold water fountain moved very, very slowly, and I felt like I could just drink the whole thing. The thing I looked forward to most was coming home and lying down on our most comfortable couch and turning on the TV to reruns of a show that now probably has more spin-offs than the number of episodes in its original 3 seasons. You can probably tell what it is by the title of my talk. The opening of the show began with these words that I know are familiar to so many of you. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Now, I don't really consider myself a Trekkie, but there was something about that vision in Star Trek that made me forget about those long, hot, humid summer days. And my fears about making the team and starting high school. It captured my imagination about how science can be an adventure and provide a sense of mission and purpose for our lives. And now, today, over 40 years later, I can see that not only has this vision stayed with me, but also how in reality, these faculty and many of you students and I have become part of this voyage that I think is even greater, a voyage to a kind of inner rather than outer space. So today I can think of no greater call to adventure than the one that psychology has for us. And yet this call is so easy to miss or forget or take for granted, and psychology itself is so easily misunderstood. So those of you who are parents of psychology majors out there, what did you think when you learned what your child wanted to major in? When I told my mother, her first thought was of Dr. Phil. And that I might start yelling at her and telling her to buck up. And what do you do when you find out someone sitting next to you on a plane or in a place like this is a psychologist? Do you want to tell them your problems? Put on your headphones and pretend to sleep? Or just quickly move to another seat? My wife almost didn't go out with me because she was afraid that I would somehow try to read her mind. Whereas now she wishes that I could. got to be careful when you marry a psychologist. It doesn't help that some of us chose psychology as a major because we thought it would be easy. How many of you thought it would be? After all, it's just common sense, right? It's not surprising that we might be concerned about paying good money, even a lottery scholarship, to learn what everyone already knows, or some old ideas about a guy named Freud. But the kind of psychology that I want to talk about is different, in that it actually is a science. I'm not joking, they can back me up on this. And the domain of this science I would have taken it off at the start, but I would be afraid that you're going to see the halo above my head. But that's okay. I know I shine. All right. And this science has to do with our brains and all the behavior that flows from it. And although outer space is really, really big, and Neil deGrasse Tyson can get us really, really excited about it, it's hard to imagine anything that matches the inner space of what happens up here. It's been estimated that our brains have 100 billion neurons, with each connected to as many as 10,000 others, passing signals through as many as 1,000 trillion connections between them, with these connections growing and changing throughout our lives. Even as you sit here and listen to these words, I remember how amazed I was when I realized that brain imaging can now enable us to see how our brains work, all different parts, in real time. So we have the opportunity to see how they may embody not only happiness, sadness, creativity, wisdom, courage, and love. There might be more going on up here that makes it even possible for us to imagine things like Star Trek, or Star Wars, or Harry Potter, or Game of Thrones, which I'm sure some of you are thinking about right now, than anything else we've discovered, either within or beyond our world. No wonder we can seem so complicated, mysterious, so hard to diagnose or put in a box, so difficult to fully understand, so utterly fascinating, as Spock would say on Star Trek. These faculty, as along with many of you students out here, have been joined in exploring this inner space, our brains and our behavior, the roots in our past, their parallels in other species, and how we can even develop to do something like graduate from college. But more than even fascinating, what could be more practical, meaningful, or rewarding than psychology? I remember how I was first drawn to psychology during a time of overwhelming stress, when I was about the age of a lot of you. I had had back surgery that left me in great pain and hardly able to walk. I was only 24 and I felt almost as old as I am now, while also at the same time losing my most cherished relationship and being far away from friends. I felt like the biblical Job who lost it all. And the thing that brought me back to life was what research by psychologists showed about how it's possible to bounce back from even the worst kinds of things that can happen to us. And after experiencing the life-saving effects of this kind of science, I decided to go into psychology to learn as much as possible about resilience, about thriving. And shortly after coming to UNM, I began teaching something called positive psychology, which focuses on what enables us to be happy, make the most of our lives, even in the midst of the stress and the challenges that we face. So in giving assignments designed to make this happen, I've seen many students who were depressed get a new lease on life. as they learn to notice and cultivate and savor the everyday blessings that they had neglected, ignored, or taken for granted, such as the love of a pet, the smile of a friend, a New Mexico sunset, or just the thought of someone you are so proud of for graduating today. I've seen those who were lost and unmotivated find direction and purpose as they discovered strengths that they didn't know that they had, the benefits of mindfulness and being more present to their lives, or the experience of flow in discovering what they love to do. And again, there are faculty sitting right up here, along with many of you students out there who have been working together to make these kinds of things possible. To free us from anxiety, depression, eating disorders, addictions, discrimination, chronic pain, and post-traumatic stress. The science of psychology is a profoundly rewarding adventure that not only offers the awe, the wonder, and the beauty of discovery, but also the possibility of creating a life worth living and making a difference where it matters the most with us. So what is it that makes psychology as a science so different from common sense, self-help, or our old ideas about Dr. Phil or Dr. Freud? What's the most important thing that it offers you graduates? And how might it justify the time and the money that so many of you have spent on your education? At the heart of science is the willingness to examine all of the evidence, like Sherlock Holmes, to test our ideas about it. And most important, to expose ourselves to something that most of us dislike very much, the possibility of being proved wrong. There are those like Galileo, Charles Darwin, Marie Curie, and Albert Einstein who accepted this challenge, often with great risk and sacrifice, and made our lives better for it. But more than just any science, the science of psychology focuses on that which is most mysterious and complex and precious to us, ourselves, and those we love and care for. This is particularly challenging because it's where our biases and blind spots are the greatest. Social psychologists have identified something called selective exposure, which is our tendency to only expose ourselves to the things that support what we already think and believe. Thus, conservative people may only watch Fox News, and progressive people may only watch MSNBC or CNN, and we become polarized and only seeing certain parts of reality. And we might not even realize that we're doing this until we get in a big fight with a relative or a friend who surprises us with a point of view that makes no sense to us. It makes them suddenly harder for us to love. For this kind of very human bias, psychology offers what may be our best hope, in that the risks we take in exposing ourselves to all sides and being proven wrong, eventually, if we are patient and persistent, result in larger and a fuller and a more complete picture of the truth. These faculty have given their lives to this challenge, often to be proven wrong, rejected, or at least having to revise and resubmit. Going years without hope of a pay raise, and attending long Friday afternoon faculty meetings, waiting for Dr. Moyers to make a motion for us to finally vote on something. You graduates have said yes to this adventure and trying to make sense of the confusing words that we sometimes create to get tenure. Taking statistics and research methods courses that make you want to scream, or sleep, or drink before you're 21, or drink until you're 21, or 22, or 23. And opening yourself up to new ideas that can frighten, humble, shake us up, but ultimately set us free. Graduates, despite the inevitable misunderstandings about psychology, today you can take pride in having accepted this challenge and given yourself to such a rich and noble journey. So now, sitting there ready to graduate, I want you to hear the call to adventure of the actual big show of which you have been and may continue to be a star. Psychology, the real final frontier. Not in the tricky world, but in the world that we all actually live in. These are the voyages of our Earthship, cleverly disguised and referred to as Logan Hall. Its 5-year mission, which granted many students and parents originally intended to be a 4-year mission, and some graduate students stretched out to 10 or 15 years, to explore the strange and beautiful behavior of people like us, to seek out new ways of bringing light to our darkness, relief to our suffering, resilience to our stress, and hope for the happiness that we all seek. To boldly go beyond in exploring who we are and why we do what we do, so that we all might be better for it. Graduates, whatever it is that you choose to do from here on out, and I know a lot of us feel anxiety and fear about this, you now have everything you need to continue on the sacred mission. More than what you could get at Starfleet Academy, at Hogwarts, or even learning about the Force from a Jedi Master. Because what you have been learning is not fiction, but the real thing, the scientific method, which actually may be the greatest force that we can tap into. With the ability to examine all of the evidence and even put your most cherished ideas and beliefs to the test, there is no amount of ignorance, folly, or BS that needs to hold you back. Parents, family members, and friends, gracias a ustedes. We thank you for your support and for putting aside your fears about psychologists, psychology majors, and having someone you know become like Dr. Phil. And back to you graduates. Bien hecho. Well done. We thank you for your good work, your patience with us, and most of all, for traveling with us on our wonderful Earthship. One of my favorite sayings that no one really knows who said first is, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. I will be forever grateful that so many of you graduates have given me the gift of sharing with me some of the incredibly hard battles that you have fought during your time at UNM. And that you've also shown me what resilience, perseverance, grit, and courage really are. Whatever your battles have been, stress, breakups, divorce, loss, parenting, caregiving, money, work, technology, illness, disability, addiction, abuse, crime, discrimination, immigration, language, culture, scheduling, parking, traffic, that crazy new bus thing on Central. What's that all about? Or those who who never thought that you could do it. And for some of you, it was you. Whatever your battles have been, I hope you will fully appreciate that this one very hard battle, for which you are here now to celebrate, is a battle that, with no doubts about it, ustedes han ganado. You have won. And no one will ever be able to take that away from you. Like an eternal flame, what you have learned can be a light for you that never goes out. Go boldly and let it shine to light your way and enable you to make the most of what the poet Mary Oliver called your one wild and precious life. Make us and all of those who love you and made this day possible for you proud by showing how brightly you can shine and how high, like those blooms, you can rise. Que ustedes vivan una vida larga y próspera. May you live long